Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the July 16th, 2024 board meeting. We're going to open this meeting at 4:33. Before we go to closed session, is there any public comment? No public comment. We will go to closed session. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. For those who are in the boardroom and those who may be joining us by virtual, I'd like to, first of all, thank you for being patient with us. Board had to continue business, so we're calling ourselves back into open session for the Tuesday, July 16, 2024 Board of Education regular board meeting. May we have interpretation? Yes.
Good evening. We have Spanish interpretation available via Zoom as well as American Sign Language. Buenas noches. Tenemos interpretación al español disponible en Zoom y también lenguaje de señas americano. Thank you. Gracias.
Thank you. Dr. Maldonado, please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please rise and face the flag. Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'm going to now move us to action in closed session. Let me just pull that up. Okay. Maybe I can pull us up. It's not there. Mr. Escobedo, can you announce the closed session? My computer's not up.
In closed session, the board took action on C1, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation. The vote was 4 yes and 1 abstention. Thank you.
Thank you. So it's coming up, so I'm going to use the good old paper. All right. Now we're going to welcome our newest board member and looking forward to his report. So welcome.
Hello, everyone. My name is Eric Gonzalez, an upcoming senior at Santa Barbara High School. I'm looking forward to another strong year of reinforcing student wellness, acknowledging student voices, ideas, identities, and ensuring the representation to strengthen our student inclusion and community. Summer school for students and staff is wrapping up this Friday. Along with that, we are seeing schools finalize their student registration, scheduling, and at high schools, we will see the new student orientation for the upcoming class of 2028. Thank you.
Thank you. Now that first one's all behind you, so only good things going forward. Now we'll move to the superintendent's report.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you. Welcome, Eric. We're super excited to be working with you and learning from you all about what's happening with students in the high schools. I do want to basically share the same words that Eric just did, and if Sandra can pull up my PowerPoint. I want to start by acknowledging, as Eric said, some of the work that's been going on. If you can go to the next one, Sandra, at summer school, and some of the work that just happens behind the scenes while everybody's off and traveling or going to the library, going to the beach. The weather hasn't really, cooperated much, but you can see here, I visited some of the summer school sites. I did get a chance to see some of the students in the ESY programs the week of the 4th of July. They came back on the 5th of July, which was really great to see. Actively and engaged. I got to see a lot of the ESY kids at at La Cumbre and at McKinley. Dr. Sheffield and I also visited the high schools, San Marcos. We saw the DP students over at Goleta Valley that were also working on Edgenuity, trying to get all their credits so that they can go into the next year with, recouping some of the credits missed. So we know that that's always a challenge. I had a chance to talk to some of the high school kids and said, hey, do you like doing your learning this way, or would you prefer to have your teacher back? Because it's all online with Edgenuity. And they do have teachers in the classroom. And it was a mixed mixed response because, we have all types of learners, individual learners, learners that like to have peers with them, learners who really want direct instruction. Some love the online learning, some want the handouts and pencil and paper. So that was really fun to see. The ESY students, I had a student approach me and say, do you do any kind of career jobs that we can have? And so I know that I talked with Mr. Shetler about doing some outreach through the Bridges program, where we do employ some of our older ESY students. And then I do have a couple pictures here from Dos Pueblos. I want to thank Principal Woodard, who shared this picture. On the top right, you'll see that the DP Greek Theater had I guess a facelift, you could say, maybe like a paint lift. But you see students that came in to volunteer their time to repaint the bleachers and then put some turf down as well. So those are some of the improvements that are going on there. In the next slide, you'll see our painters at work. You'll see our grounds people also working at the gardening. There's some work going on, cleaning floors, polishing those floors. I remember my time as a teacher, I loved coming back to those really clean floors. You could eat off of them. Probably only lasts about a day or two. But I do want to recognize all the work of our maintenance and facilities workers. There's some work happening at windows, window repair or replacement. Anyway, I just want to recognize that there's still a bunch of people. And it would be terrible that I didn't say this, but our district office is also full of people working. In fiscal department, purchasing, ETS is getting all their devices ready. So there's still a lot of activities happening in summertime, and I just want to give a big shout out to our summer crew. Next slide. I do want to thank Dr. Becchio's leadership for a launch that we will be giving some attention to this year. The work that he's been doing with the Benefits Committee and Burnham Benefits as well has really been impressive. We will be launching the benefits open enrollment August 5th to August 30th. You can see here, this will be the landing page. It lists all the new health plans as well as it's English and Spanish. And also we're making a big shift in our dental plans, moving away from Delta Dental to MetLife. They have partnered with a company called American Fidelity that's going to also be coming and sending us basically a whole crew of staff to help our employees understand the differences in these new plans, how to enroll effectively, and just how to experience an overall better experience with enrolling and making sure they are ready to go with health benefits and services. There were some missteps that I want to acknowledge and give voice to that were brought to the attention of myself and the board that we hope will not be repeated next year. And we think with this new partnership that will not happen. And also, I do want to say that this will be shared widely across the different events that will be coming up in the next couple of weeks. Next, I do want to also let the board know that we have an incredible opportunity to partner with the Annie E. Casey Foundation, who will be providing a results-based leadership framework to us through their program called the Results Count Framework. And in this partnership, we will make sure that we continue to enhance all our leaders' skills and knowledge. And by the end of this program, we expect that all our leaders in management are going to align with each other to design, implement, and show progress on the work that leads to improved outcomes with our continued focus on equity, that they will engage with each other to address disparities and create equitable opportunities, systems and supports that positively impact the lives of students and families in Santa Barbara County, and of course, a really important piece, leveraging data, partnerships, personal power, and organizational authority in ways that will support better results in Santa Barbara Unified. That institute is 4 days, and 2 of those days will be with the Annie E. Casey Foundation. They are providing the materials, some personnel, some tools that we will be able to use, and they will be coming throughout the year to continue that work with us and our top leaders, beginning with our principals. So with that, I'd like to end with just a statement of gratitude for all of you, our educators, our staff, our students, our parents, and the board. Thank you. That concludes my superintendent report.
Thank you, Superintendent. Mr. Escobedo. We're moving now to our public comments.
Yes. Welcome, everyone. It's good to see you. We have we have 4 public commenters for items that are not on today's agenda, so everyone will get 3 minutes. We have our first virtual public commenter, but for those that are in the room that are going to give in-person public comment, just as a friendly reminder, on the podium there is the lighting system that'll give you a 30-second warning when it turns yellow. Just above the door to your right, there's a clock just above the exit sign that can also indicate how much time you have left. Our first public commenter that is virtual is Josby Galindo. Welcome.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, welcome.
Awesome, thank you so much. Good evening, school board, superintendent, and cabinet. I'm José Galindo, SPTA president. I have some comments tonight. I'm very concerned that this governing board is making some very important decisions and controversial decisions during the summer break. It seems that you've looked for a time to move forward with these issues that provide the least resistance for you. Additionally, you have Additionally, you have not reached out to your constituents for input on decisions you're making today. This is just another demonstration of the lack of respect you have for the constituents of this school community. I have made public comments time and time again that there needs to be relationships forged within this district. You had made very little effort on this front. That goes both for the board and the superintendent. Some of you guys were appointed, therefore I'm a little worried that no constituents are holding you accountable for some of the decisions being made. Equally concerning is the fact that you have not put out a comprehensive evaluation of the superintendent or other cabinet members. The school community should have a say in the decisions that you are making today, for instance, extending contracts. Many educators have made public comment on issues that they've addressed that have not been addressed by this district. Parents have come to enlightening you on the lack of services being provided to their children or the lack of effort by the superintendent in getting to know the parents. Have you even talked to your administrators about the decision that you're going to make tonight regarding extending a contract? Right now, I just feel that there's a lack of accountability in the process and that there needs to be some change made. You all need to create, I'm going to say it again, it is so important that all of us try to create relationships. You guys as a board and our superintendent has to create relationship with all its constituents. I really hope that you'll take this to heart. I just feel that there's just been a lot of opportunities to really work together. And that also shows that comes from the leadership from this district. And in any case, thank you so much for your time and consideration. And I hope you take my words very seriously. I think there's a lot of people out in the community that really need this to be addressed. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So that is our only virtual public commenter, but we have a few people in the room. So I'm going to say the next 3 people so you can queue up. We have Carolina Bate, followed by Lisa Sloan, followed by Katie Garibe. Welcome. Is your mic on? I don't believe so. If you press that button. Yeah.
Testing? Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Perfect.
Thank you. Our education system is critical in the formation of our young people. I would like to speak to what happened on Saturday at Trump's rally. The young man at Trump's rally who shot and killed someone and critically injured 2 other people, he was not born to do that. No one is born to grow up and commit murder. Yet how did this happen? How many young people today spend countless hours playing video games with violent killing themes, or watching violence on television or other programs? Many young people are very vulnerable And over time, they become desensitized and lose respect, first of all, for their own lives, and then also for the value of the lives of other people. We need, as the public and school board members, everyone, to be much more conscious and careful about what is influencing the behavior of our young people. We need to stop and ask ourselves, what kind of formation are we teaching the young people right here in our own school district in Santa Barbara? Are we cultivating their virtues and helping them to become ethical, moral young men and women? How absolutely critically important it is that our students fully comprehend that because each of them is individually made in the image and likeness of God, that they must always behave, act, and speak accordingly with wisdom and dignity. This is a much healthier and more beautiful and enlightened path forward for our schools, our curriculums, and our society and our country. Reality is telling us there is a place for religion in our public schools. There is a place for prayer in our public schools. We need to begin to teach the 10 Commandments again, most especially, thou shalt not kill. Everyone in our country, regardless of politics, has a role to play in helping to promote God-fearing, common sense, and right reason in our local community and in our country. We must create a safe and peaceful land to hand over to our children when it comes their turn to be adults and enjoy their life in our country. Thank you so much for your time and attention and being willing to consider these ideas.
Thank you. Next, we have Lisa Sloan, followed by Katie Garibe. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Lisa Sloan. Madam Superintendent and Honorable Trustees, on September 17th, 1787, the delegates to the Constitutional Convention signed the Constitution of the United States that has lasted for 236 years. This Constitution established our national government and fundamental laws that have lasted longer than any other constitution, with the average life of only 17 years. The 1787 convention delegates formulated a structure of 3 branches, legislative, executive, and judicial, along with a system of checks and balances to ensure a government of, by, and for the people. President Eisenhower enacted the observance of Constitution Week in 1956 to commemorate the signing of this remarkable document. In 2004, Congress enacted U.S. Code 106, Title 36, requiring public schools and institutions to provide information on the history of the Constitution. The law named September 17th Constitution Day and Citizenship Day. To comply with the law, teachers will find materials for their classrooms at the National Archives website. The Federalist Papers challenge us with a quote from our very first Chief Justice of the United States Supreme Court, John Jay, who stated, "Every member of the state ought diligently to read and to study the Constitution of this country and teach the rising generation to be free. By knowing their rights, they will sooner perceive when they are violated and be better prepared to defend and assert them." Not only should students learn the Constitution, but they also need to understand what is intended by its authors. In his 1883 Commentaries on the Constitution, Joseph Story wrote, "The first and fundamental rule in the interpretation of all documents is to construe them according to the sense of the terms and intentions of the parties. The importance of understanding the original intent of the authors cannot be overstated. America is the greatest nation on earth. One simple proof is that more people emigrate here than leave. How do the students of Santa Barbara Unified learn what keeps alive the American dream? They must read and study to understand and defend the founding document of this great nation. Thank you. And I have a couple copies of the Constitution and 2 copies of my remarks. If I can hand them to you, please.
And Jill-
Okay, perfect. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Next, we have Katie Garibe. Welcome.
Thank you. Okay. Hi, my name is Katie Garibay, and I'm a teacher at San Marcos High School. I've been teaching in the district for 13 years, and I'm also an SB Unified parent. I'm here today to speak in opposition to extending the superintendent's contract. Teachers, parents.
I'm sorry. We have to wait for your public comment for when
Oh.
that item comes up, which is F7. This is for items that are not on the agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just wrote public comment on my card. So when do I?
It's F7, so there are 6 more items to
Okay.
go.
Can you put me in that order
Yep.
then, please?
Yeah, sorry about that. That is the last general public comment.
Okay, thank you. So now board comments, any correspondence would the board like to comment at this time or continue on? Hearing no comments, we will move to our consent agenda. Board members, are there any items from the consent agenda that you'd like to pull? Okay, hearing no request to pull. Okay, I didn't see it. All right, so I will need to recuse because of my position with Gateway, who is a contractor on consent item number 5. So, excuse me, first, is it first 5? First 5. It's first 5. I'm the executive director, so I need to put myself on that one too. Okay. All right, so board members, with that, may I have approval of the consent agenda beyond, excluding E5?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented minus item E5.
I second.
Okay, motion second. All in favor, raise your hands, please say aye.
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 Yes, so Mr. Escobedo, can you call the vote on E5?
Yes. Do we have a motion to approve E5?
I move to approve to host community and student and family concerts and related contracts with 123 Andres and the City of Santa Barbara Parks and Recreation.
I second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. And we're going to do a roll call vote. So, President Sims Moten,
I abstain.
Mr. Bilbani,
Aye.
sorry, Ms. Munoz,
Aye.
Dr. Beal,
Aye.
and then I'll vote aye. So 4 ayes and 1 abstention.
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you. All right. Board members, we will now move to our action agenda, starting with F1, approval of MOU, Santa Barbara Unified and Royal Pride Foundation. Dr. Vecchio.
Good evening, Board President Sims Moten, board members, Superintendent Maldonado. This item is being brought forward by Human Resources in representation of San Marcos High School and the project that's going on there. And so at this point, I would like to turn it over to the Dean of Student Engagement there, Devaney Beckler, who will come up and present to you this item.
Hello. Let me get all set up. You're pulling up my presentation? Yeah, thank you so much. And this advances this. Goes back. Yeah, this is the only one that I want. Thank you for having me tonight while she's getting that ready. I'm representing San Marcos Health Career Academy and the work that our programmatic committee as well as our Royal Pride Foundation have been doing for the last several years. My goal tonight is going to be soon to share about our need for an academy coordinator. In a moment. I feel like I should do a song and dance, but no, probably not. Perfect. Okay, so we can go to the next slide. The San Marcos HCA is over 20 years old, and in the last 5 years, we have doubled our enrollment. So we're currently serving around 180 students, and many of our seniors graduate with a Patient Care Pathway CTE certificate, which is amazing, I think. You are not seeing that, are you? Sorry, and then one more. Perfect, thank you so much. So our focus recently in developing a stronger academy for our school and community has been to design and fundraise for a designated space to house our Health Careers Academy. We've reached a little over halfway of our goal and are hoping to secure funding this school year so that we can break ground on both this mini campus that we're trying to develop, as well as a state-of-the-art wellness center, which I personally am excited about as I work with a lot of students who are in need of mental health care and management. As our programmatic committee met monthly over the last year, we began to see a need for an HCA coordinator position to help us expand our academy into its second generation. We've been fortunate enough to have the support of the Bauer Foundation and Cottage Health, and they've both committed to providing $30,000 each year for the next 3 years for this position. Next slide. Our focus recently in developing a stronger academy for our school and community has been to design, I'm sorry, that's the same thing that I'm saying. Last time, sorry. At this point, you're likely asking yourselves what this coordinator position would look like, and I'd like to show you that here. We'd like to add 2 additional pathways over the next 2 years, building out and implementing coursework and internship opportunities for our students. The final year would also be spent working on new community partnerships and supporting fundraising efforts in the academy, as well as act as a liaison between San Marcos, SBSD, and the needs of our local medical community. And next slide. Finally, I'd like to share with you just a suggested map for each of the pathways that our coordinator will be working on, adjusting, fine-tuning all that over the next year. There are quite a few dual enrollment courses offered, which I think is going to provide an ultimately unique experience for any of our high school students in our Health Careers Academy. And you can see that we have quite a few question marks on some of the courses, so it's just a really skeleton of ideas. But I'm looking forward to seeing where all this lands and appreciate the opportunity to share with you about this exciting endeavor. Do you have any questions for me that I can hopefully answer on behalf?
So are there any requests to speak? Board members, thank you for the presentation. Hold on.
Oh,
We might have some for you. Board members, any questions or comments? Dr. Bill?
Hello, thank you for this presentation. I, for the obvious reasons, I'm really excited about the development of this academy as a physician. I did have some questions. I know this is about the job position, but at the same time, I feel tied into it is that with our CTE pathways, we are trying to offer certifications and such so that students, if they don't choose to go right to college, that they can consider some sort of working opportunity after they graduate. And so I would like to see, as we develop the Health Career Academy, that we see what sort of certifications that the students can obtain that they can use while they're in school or immediately after school. So I'm hoping as we hear more plans about the development, and then I imagine this will be part of the job of the person that you're seeking to hire, that we have very concrete goals to offer these opportunities to our students.
I love that, yeah.
Any additional questions or comments? Okay. Again, thank you for your presentation, and I just also want to appreciate the community partnerships.
Yeah,
This community is very generous in helping us meet our goals that we can't necessarily meet by ourselves. So thank you, and really excited to see this come to fruition. So just hold on one second. We're going to take a vote just to make sure. So I'd like to have a motion for approval on this action.
I would like to move to approve the MOU between Santa Barbara Unified and the Royal Pride Foundation regarding the Health Careers Academy and Health Careers Academy Coordinator job description.
I second.
Been motion and second. All in favor, please raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Great. Motion passes. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Governor.
Okay, now we're moving to F2, approval of a grant award documents for Resolution 2024-2501. Mr. Duggs is here.
All right. Good evening, President Sims Mountains, board members, Dr. Maldonado. Tonight, I'll be speaking to you about accepting a $6 million grant from the California Schools Healthy Air, Plumbing, and Efficiency Program, also known as CalShape. Previously, the state awarded us a $1.7 million grant for the assessment of our current heating, ventilation, and air conditioning equipment. We are about 90% through with the assessment, with Dos Pueblos High School as the remaining school. Because we have completed most of the assessments, we were eligible to apply for a $6 million upgrade and replacement grant from the state. We applied for and was awarded the $6 million grant to replace aging natural gas furnaces at Cleveland, Franklin, Harding, Santa Barbara Community Academy, and Santa Barbara Junior High School with electric heat pumps that incorporate air conditioning. Now, why these schools? So these schools were recognized as low income and therefore are first on the eligibility list. While $6 million sounds like a lot, it is not enough to replace everything at any of the schools. Therefore, we are prioritizing the units in the classrooms, as that is where the students spend the majority of their time. If we encounter a situation, if all the classrooms cannot be upgraded with the available funds, I'll work with the site administration so we can prioritize the classrooms accordingly. As for the timeline of the project, it's going to be several months after the board approval before we receive the funds from the state. And then afterwards, I'm going to be working with our current contractor, MCOR, to start doing the design, to figure out what the electrical upgrades are, and also to create a budget for this project. So we anticipate that likely to start in summer of 2025, likely going into the following year. So thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Any requests to speak on this item? Board members, any comments or questions? Well, you know, you always come with money, so I'm always going to smile when you come here. So thank you for your diligence and seeking out funding for us to upgrade and replace our equipment, you know, that it is aging, and so just always appreciating your intentional looking for that. With that, board members, may I have a motion for approval?
I will move to approve the grant award documents and resolution number 2024-25-01 from the CalShape Upgrade and Replacement Program.
I'll second.
Been motion and second. All in favor, please raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll move to F3, approval of revision to the Administrative Regulation 6174. Ms. Dr. Sheffields.
Good evening, Board President Sims Moten, Board Members, Superintendent Maldonado. I'm here this evening. This is not something we traditionally do, to ask you to approve administrative regulations, but there has been a change, and this is one item that has come up in our federal program monitoring, and so we wanted to make sure we brought it to your attention. There has been a slight update within the administrative regulations. Some of the key things that we just wanted you to notice, and the reason why we made the change, is because there is an alternative LPAC test that is given to our students that have cognitive disabilities, and so we needed to add that information and make note of that within our administrative regulations. And so that is the biggest difference, and that is the rationale for the change. We wanted to make sure we shared it and have it board approved, and then we'll share that with our FPM.
Okay. Thank you. Any requests to speak on this item? Board members, any questions or comments? Hearing none, may I have a motion for approval?
I move to approve the revised Administrative Regulation 6174, Education for English Learners, as submitted.
Second.
Been motion and second. All in favor, please raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Dr. Sheffield. Okay, moving right along to F4, approval of Resolution 2024-25-02, Declaration of Need for Fully Qualified Educators. Ms. Peak?
Good evening, Board President Sims Moten, Board of Education, and Dr. Maldonado. I'm here this evening to request approval of the Declaration of Need for Fully Qualified Educators for the 24-25 school year and Resolution 2024-25-02. The Declaration of Need, otherwise known as a DAWN, is an annual document required by the employing local and education agency, in other words, the school district, as a prerequisite to the issuance of an emergency permit and or limited assignment permit for that agency. The DAWN is established by the California Code of Regulations 826. If we as a district anticipate employing teachers who have a base credential, such as a single subject or a multiple subject credential, but are in need of a limited assignment permit and/or an emergency permit, we are required to have the DON on file with the Commission on Teacher Credentialing. Certificated staff who will be teaching under the Declaration of Need during the 24-25 school year must sign an agreement and will need to complete necessary coursework to get the credential within 3 years. Again, we're asking for approval of the DON and the resolution, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
See no request to speak. Okay, thank you, Ms. Peak. Board members, any comments or questions? Okay, thank you. May I have a motion for approval?
Make a motion to approve Resolution 2024-2502, Declaration of Need for Fully Qualified Educators.
I second the motion.
Been motion and second. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so
Ms. Peak. Okay, E5, approval of human resources recommendation. Dr. Becchio.
Okay, thank you very much, and I'm presenting to you tonight the Human Resources recommendations. I did want to point out that I attached a memo to it just to give you some background information about the reduction in time that are on this particular list. Some of the stipends, in particular the mental health internship stipends, those appear on this list, and also the dual enrollment stipends. So that memo is attached to this item. I also wanted to just point out and congratulate Jennifer Conway and Rosalba Gonzalez Hill, both hired as assistant principals at San Marcos High School, so they appear on this list. I also wanted to congratulate Claudia De Leon, Alondra Lemus Ceballos, and Allison Walker for their promotions. And again, we have on classified premium pay, a congratulations to Maria Jimenez and Vicky Medina, both receiving master's degrees, so they'll get the premium pay for that. And then Angela Montanez and Maria Navis, both receiving bachelor's degrees, premium pay. And then language service premium increases, Eileen Montezuma and Arisbeth Serrano Perez. So congratulations to them. And with that, I'll turn it over to the board for any comments or questions.
Okay. No request to speak, I'm assuming? Okay. Board members, any comments or questions? May I have a motion for approval?
I move to approve the Human Resources recommendations.
I second the motion.
Motion and second. All in favor, please raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Becchio. Now we're going to move to F6, acceptance of public disclosure of 2024-26 collective bargaining agreement for the Santa Barbara Teachers Association and underrepresented employees per AB 1200. Lacey, you can speak.
And I want to, before Lacey starts, I just want to remind the board, the public that are here today, that this item, AB 1200, was created to ensure that local education agencies throughout California are adequately prepared to meet their financial obligations. The concern arose following the bankruptcy of the Richmond School District and the fiscal collapse of a few other districts that were preparing to request an emergency loan from the state. AB 1200 improved fiscal procedures, standards, and accountability at the local level and expanded the role of the County Office of Education in monitoring school districts by mandating that the County Office of Education intervene under certain circumstances to ensure that districts can meet their financial obligations. Districts are required to submit an AB 1200 disclosure to their county prior to asking the board for approval of any salary agreement increases that are a result of our negotiations. And this is in accordance with Government Code 3547.5. Today's AB 1200 does not include the California School Employee Association's tentative agreements because, as you know, they have not been ratified by the members. So before we bring up Lacey, I do want to thank her for jumping in. Kim was unable to be with us today. And just remind the board that this is a bit of, in the order of the way that we have to conduct the business in terms of approving this first before we go into the rest of the items. I also want to do just recognize a special thanks to the County Office of Education, Superintendent Dr. Susan Salcido and her team were really instrumental in working with our team last week to try to get a process that typically takes a little bit longer done in a week. So just a special thanks to them as well. And with that, I'll turn it over to our Director of Fiscal Services, Lacey Preston. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to be here and speak on behalf of Kim Hernandez, Assistant Superintendent of Business Services. As Hilda mentioned, we are here to go over the AB 1200 negotiations requirement. Kim worked closely with the County Office of Education to make sure that we met all the requirements and completed their documentation, which was attached to the board item. So what is the AB 1200? Hilda went over that a little bit. It's a government code which allows public inspection of settlement costs. This is a regular part of the collective bargaining process when money is being negotiated. The county must review the settlement and determine if the district can afford the costs. So this step has been done, and so now we are here tonight seeking approval of the AB 1200. What is included in the AB 1200? We have all the costs for all the tentative agreements ratified by SBTA for all the funds that have certificated employees within it. So that would be the General Fund 01 and then our Child Development Fund 12. We also have included the unrepresented group of employees. Those would be our management and confidential employees. And we included the same increases that SPTA is receiving. So you'll see the 10, the 3, and then the 2. And we have also included the costs for the health benefits where the district is going to pay 75% of the healthcare premiums. The AB 1200 does not include any of the negotiations that are still ongoing with CSCA. Meetings continue, and the next meeting will be this Friday. Once completed, the TAs will need to be ratified by all their members, and then another AB 1200 will be brought back to the board, and that will then include a multi-year projection with all of the settlements. Right here is a breakdown of kind of more detail of the costs. So you see the 10% and then some other items that were negotiated there for 24-25 and then 25-26. It's important to note that these costs will be ongoing. So as we use one-time funds or as we use funds that are in the reserve, those are considered one-time, but these are ongoing. So we will have to find areas to reduce costs so that we can stay fiscally solvent. And so that was one of the County Office of Education's main concerns, was that we make sure that we move forward with the significant cuts to allow for the ongoing increases in salary. And so this will now give the district the opportunity to reimagine how we do business. We look forward to planning and working with everyone to do that. I'll turn it over now for any comments and or questions.
Thank you. No request to speak. Board members' comments or questions? Hearing no additional comments. I know we've been going over it and you've been sharing this with us. So what is the next step in with regards to coming to the board for approval? I think you said it, but I just missed those steps. So now that the board, should we approve it, what's the next step goes in with regards to it's ratified, it's approved by the board, what happens next?
Dr. Becchio will come up with a couple other items.
Okay.
That will also need to be approved, and then we'll be good to go.
Okay, so separate from this?
Yes.
But whatever he's coming up is included in these figures? For this?
Yes.
Okay, all right, just want to be clear with that. Okay, may I have a motion for approval?
So we're item 7, just to make sure I'm reading the correct thing.
We're item 6.
Oh, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I approve the acceptance of public disclosure of 2024-2026 collective bargaining agreement for the Santa Barbara Teachers Association and the unrepresented employees per AB 1200.
I second.
Been motion and second. All in favor, please raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Now we move to F7. Dr. Vecchio, approval of tentative agreements between Santa Barbara Teachers Association and Santa Barbara Unified School District corresponding 2024-25 certificated non-management salary schedules.
Indeed, thank you very much. So basically, we have had ratification by SBTA membership, certainly. We have the AB 1200, which is the fiscal agency that oversees and ensures that we can afford the actual tentative agreements. And then I'm excited to bring forward this item as the final step prior to us being able to actually implement the tentative agreements. Before I turn it over to you, I do want to recognize the SBTA leadership and in particular their negotiation team. I also want to recognize the district's negotiation team. As you know, it was a unusually long process this year. It was at times very difficult and challenging for both teams. And I just think it's important that we recognize the hard work that happened in the process with the people that were actually sitting at the table and trying to get to a settlement. This tentative agreement represents salary increases, which is mostly what the community hears about. It does have I'm proud to say, a substantial increase in salary and benefits and the employer contribution to health benefits, which has been something that we have not been able to do for quite some time, but we got it. The teams got it done this year, which I'm very proud of. This will substantially improve our employee standing in our community, and with that, I just wanted to also recognize that this is the TAs are attached, but it's wages, it's the health benefits TA, and it also has language on class size, which was a significant item in our negotiations to put reduced class size in the contract, and then it also has some working hours and conditions language around case managers increasing by 2 days, and school psychologists. There's some language in there for that. So I just wanted to make sure we point out those. We also did a lot of work, as Hilda mentioned, in our benefits committee, and I want to recognize the participants in those that helped us come to an agreement on what plans we would actually offer now that we have the new rates that are going to exist. And you can see that document that's attached as well, where we, CSEA, SBTA, and the district came to an agreement on the plans we would offer. That includes a new dental plan with MetLife, and also added a plan option for employees for healthcare. So you also will see attached the updated salary schedules. So upon approval of this item, we can implement the TAs, but we also will have approved salary schedules as well. I will bring back, and so then we'll be ready to go with putting this into place for it would be the September paycheck actually for teachers.
Okay.
With that, I'll turn it over to the board for any questions you might have.
Any requests to speak on this item? Okay.
Yes, we have 2 public commenters in person. There will be 3 minutes. We have York Shingle, followed by Joel Block. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, board, superintendent, and cabinet, and welcome to Eric Gonzalez. It's great to see you up there. I'm York Shingle, SBTA treasurer, and met the ISS for the time being. I hope you all have had a moment to breathe and enjoy summer a bit. I'm here tonight to express appreciation that we were able to go into summer with a tentative labor agreement. And I'm very happy that our union members ratified that agreement we worked so hard for. And there's always an and or a but. I've also heard from a number of newer teachers that it's not enough to keep them here. So while I recognize this is a huge increase of millions of dollars and a great first step forward, it can't be the only step. I hope you're continuing the conversation to be able to pay us even more in 2 years when salary comes up, and I hope in the meantime you start listening to and asking for teacher, student, and community voice in your decision making. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Joel Block. Welcome.
Good evening. So I debated whether to actually speak tonight, but I decided since I had been haranguing everybody here over the course of the year to settle our disputes, it was only proper to say something when it appears that our negotiations tonight will be concluded. Throughout the process, I have never doubted that we would ultimately reach a settlement, and I never doubted the desire of all parties to actually reach a settlement. However, we must use the process we just went through to develop a new way to interact with each other in a mutually polite, respectful, and dignified manner. While I'm sure that all parties are glad to have settled, that settlement will be somewhat meaningless if we continue to disdain each other's points of view and if we cannot develop mutual respect and trust. In our lives, in the last few years, we have been constantly inundated with what happens in our country when people demonize each other. It is all of our jobs and all of our requirement to build on the past year in a way that changes the current relationship paradigm. That can only happen if all parties strive to make it happen. Trust has been demolished, and the only way to get it back is for each side to dedicate themselves to making it happen. The first step, and only the first step, is to ratify the agreement between the SBTA and the district. Only from there will we be able to move forward. And while I thank you for your time, and I do hope we can move forward together, I do want to add something that I would never have said before in public for what I hope become obvious reasons. I know that some of you are up for re-election. I happen to be the chair of our political action committee of SBTA, and one of the things we do is we interview candidates and then determine whether to make endorsements and or financial contributions. And all I'm saying is, if any of you are who are up for election or planning to rerun, please contact me so that we can set up time to meet together and work together for the future. So I thank you for your time, and I hope you have what I would say is summer, but it's almost over already. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And that concludes public comment.
Thank you. Board members for that item? Okay, thank you. Board members, any comments or questions? He said for F8, I believe. Okay. Any comments or questions, board members? Ms. Munoz?
Yes, I'd like to address the teachers the agreement with SBTA and the increase in salaries for SBTA members. Since the beginning of my serving on the board 5 years ago, I was concerned about the health insurance costs, the benefits, and the dental, and the impact on our staff and their families. And I'm, very pleased that that's going to be included as part of the contract. I also, as a board member, was elected for this position and feel the responsibility of our board and as a board member to serve our students, teachers, and community, so then administer the money responsibly so that we keep our schools open and are able to have the facilities that are needed, the staff, the supplies. And I think that, I want to talk about beginning on the road to healing from this in terms of the negotiations. I'd like to continue in a manner that is inclusive, and I've really appreciated and heard the voices of the teachers that have invited us to visit their classrooms, to see in action, what they are teaching, and have an extended visit in the classrooms, get acquainted with the students, and be more involved and visible in that way, and also, so that on a one-on-one basis we hear their voices too and their concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Any additional comments, board members? Mr. Escobedo.
Yeah, I'll follow that up. First off, I just wanted to thank Mr. Block and Mr. Shingle for your comments. This concludes what has been, for me, one of the toughest 9 months I've endured in my career as a public servant. I know I'm young, but I have a few years under my belt. And I'll say two things. One, I'm really proud of the outcome here, and I'm also quite proud, and I know it may not have appeared that way from the outside, but from the onset, this board was quite serious about producing a fair compensation package. And that highlighted not only salary increases, but health benefits at the top of the priority list. And to see both of those in this package is I'm quite proud of. And I think, from the outset we were serious. And I know over the last 9 months we heard about how we weren't serious. But it played out when the initial deal we offered was so close to what came out in fact-finding. And I say that for no other reason than just to explain to folks that I understand that when you come to a board meeting and it's such a rigid environment and a rigid structure, and we can say certain things but we can't say other things, that oftentimes what it looks like is not reality. That there are people up here, there are people in this room that sincerely care. And it never felt like, from the beginning, from my perspective, and I'm only speaking for myself, like there was a narrative about it being otherwise. And so I'm here to say to you that absolutely we care, and we heard you. Now, there were times where I think, and we brought it up, where it became personal at times. But for those folks that actually spoke their truth about the struggles, we heard those. And those are things that are not lost on us. And as we move forward and as we talk about rebuilding relationships, and when we talk about what's the next step, those are all considerations. Those are all conversations that we are having, that we are taking seriously. And again, I know it doesn't feel like it. And the journey from here to the next point is not a quick one. These things don't happen overnight or in one fell swoop. These are actions after actions over time, year after year, to get to where we need to go. When I hear you, York, about new teachers, absolutely right. I feel that. I see it at work. I know you see it in your colleagues. I know there are folks here that see it too. It's the reason why we want to work on doing things that are just happening in school districts. Housing, getting involved in the housing conversation. That is a serious one that we need you all to be a part of in that conversation with us. Because as we enter into these processes, I'm telling you, it's not easy. And we need to navigate it, but we can't do it without you. And we want to pull on every single lever that we can to make sure that our teachers can afford to live and work here. That they can be with our district and retire with our district. And live with dignity. So I say that in all sincerity. It is something that I take quite serious, and I know the folks that are up here take it quite serious too. And I know that the folks that are over there in the cabinet and that the superintendent takes it serious too. And I need you to hear that. And so I am enthusiastically approving this. And in looking, if one thing came out of fact finding, it was that in looking at the salary increases, this is one of the largest packages that has been in maybe since we unified as a school district that has been given. And I'm hoping that we do have some really tough budget discussions to have in the near future. I'm hoping that in 2 years that the financial situation is such that we can continue to build on that, but we don't know. And again, that's going to be in partnership that we're going to have and navigate these really tough decisions. And so I say with all gratitude, thank you to you all that put in the hard work on our union partner side. Thank you to our negotiating team for putting in all the work that you did, and the long nights, and the very stressful moments, and at a time of the school year which we're all burnt out. And I'll be supporting this, and I just wanted to say thank you to you all. Thank you.
Additional comments, board members? I would just, Mr. Banning.
I just want to say thank you also to Mr. Shingle and Mr. Block for your comments. For Trustee Munoz and Trustee Escobedo, you've said things that reflect very, very similarly to what I saw and what I believe, and I appreciate you articulating them so clearly. There's been frustrating moments as we've sat and listened and know that you haven't been privy to the conversations and the dedication that this unified board is and has worked through, and our desire to see this be, as Mr. Escobedo has said, the starting point, and hoping that financial situations are such that we can continue. In my tenure as a professional educator, I worked with teachers in my late 20s when I was a teacher and seeking improvements in the salary schedule. Remember greatly when my first paycheck as a full-time teacher, when my take-home exceeded 3 figures for the first time for a month. I've been on the side of the administration, and on administrative bargaining teams, and on district bargaining teams. I've been a human resources director and been the chief negotiator for 2 school districts. And I will share again that this has been one of the most difficult periods to get to where we did at that long night. But I too had the confidence that we would be there, because I know that as a community, as a school district, we are here for the same reason. And we hear, and we know that the challenges of living in this community, that we can only address that so far. These are structural issues that cause problems in wealthy communities. It's incredibly difficult, and we know the difficulty and the approach and the need for our current teachers to be paid so that they can stay here. We desperately want to do this as a unified board. I will also say that one of the things of my experience as superintendent in Goleta when I was negotiating there was very hard work between management and the associations to make sure that we had communication and respect and the ability to talk about things and understand and listen to one another. I was part of the negotiations at the time of the Refugio spill, when basic aid districts lost enormous amounts of their revenue. And it was real, it happened. It actually happened less to Goleta than some others, but we worked together with the union to visit schools and to talk about what was the reality there. And what we came away with were settlements that worked and a mutual respect between the leadership of the unions and the administration in a manner that shows me and reminds me that these kinds of things are possible. What makes them possible is consistency and continuity. Just as it's difficult to hire new teachers and train them and then know that they go away for whatever reasons, primarily because it's too expensive, they can go somewhere else and be on a higher salary schedule. I think we took a big step toward reconciling that. Perhaps not enough yet, but we are aware. But that same kind of thing causes districts to spend more money as they have to retrain and spend energy as teachers, watching our colleagues teach with us and learn with us and become part of a team and then going away and having to do that over again. The same thing is true at every level of leadership in a school district, from teachers to principals to assistant superintendents to cabinets and board members and superintendents. Continuity and working together with respect and the knowledge that we are all here for the same reason is exactly what will strengthen our district and our relationships and, in the end, the children of the community. I firmly and with great pleasure support this settlement as what can happen when unified teams work together, even when they're opposed, to get to a point that they understand is mutually beneficial and the best that they can do for one another. So my support, 100%. And again, thank you to those both in the audience and here that are speaking toward that desire to build and grow upon that respect and continue it and make it stronger with the teams that we have. Thank you.
Additional comments? Anyone? I will conclude before we take the vote by echoing the comments of my colleagues and board members, and also the folks who just spoke on this item with regards to where do we go from here, the willingness to know that we've got to go from here. We can't just stay stuck here with regards to this, and recognizing the difficulty that it took to get there. But there was no way other than through it where we're going to get to a resolution of some kind. And it came to a resolution to the point where it feels fair. Both sides were there. We know that it's a resolution that also is the starting point of where we got to go. It's the starting point. So I want to appreciate all that were there in the midst of all that and the experiences through that piece. And I was just thinking to myself with regards to, as this is as difficult as that process was, an opportunity to reset and go forward to all the things that we've said, what we need to happen, all the members here and members of the public who just spoke, members of the SBTA team who just spoke in terms of the relationships, the respect, and how we're going to do it together. And the way forward was through a very difficult process and draining process, but obviously necessary process, because there were lessons learned that I think that we can glean from that as a starting point to making it better. A lot of it had to come from communication. So later on in the meeting today, the board would be looking at a self-evaluation and looking inward, because oftentimes it's looking inward is where you get to be able to get some clarity in being able to hear and see from others' perspectives. And what was disappointing, and I'm right in the middle of it too, that we kept saying thee and they and them and you, and it is we. And we cannot get there unless it's us together. It's so easy in difficult times to want to put the blame somewhere because someone may be hurting or feel harm. It's so easy to want to do that because you want to release from the stress of that. But it really is, and I've always through that whole thing, it is we, it is unified, it is Santa Barbara unified. It's not us and them, it is all of us together here. And who benefits from that or who could be harmed from that, of course, is our students. And so we always want to make sure that we keep our mind focused, our actions focused. And again, I do think this is an opportunity to do that, to change the way we think about things, change the way we communicate to each other, to hear it. So we may be commuting a certain way, but how is it being received? And so how do we keep a dialogue open so that we're making sure that we're hearing and seeing from different perspectives? And I don't offer this as some solution of anger. When we get angry, we stay there, or we can choose to move forward in that way. And how do we continue to do that? But I would hope that this, again, is that first step through this very difficult process to get us to a better place, to where we want to be. And absolutely appreciate everyone, from the janitors who clean, from everyone, from students who walk in. Everyone is essential for making this district the best that it can be, so that we can make sure that we are creating an environment where our students have unlimited potential. I was talking to Mr. Banning about potential. We want to make sure that our students have that. We want to make sure that our teachers are inspired to continue being able to teach and support and inspire our students. So I offer this, definitely support this. And again, it's the starting point of where we go, but I think it really puts us in a next step of what we need to do when we're in difficult times, how we're going to be able to have conversation so that we're never in a place of disrespect, the level of disrespect that was here. And not separating anything, but the level of disrespect that we allowed to enter in Santa Barbara Unified and what that was showing to the community. So we've got to get that back too, and we've got to earn that. So I think that's something we certainly need to work on, and some of those steps is now just acknowledging this first step in acknowledging and appreciating each other who was through and experiencing that. So that's the first thing, is acknowledgement. I was at a meeting this weekend that was talking about reparations, and what they were talking about, there were 3 A's that I think really applies here too. It talked about 3 things that need to happen when we're in difficult times and one may feel harmed or not respected, is that to acknowledge it, number 1, acknowledge the harm, the stress, the difficult experience that we had here. Acknowledge that and apologize. So I offer this apology as a board that we had to go through that we felt we weren't communicating, we felt that it wasn't coming across, if it felt like we didn't care, if it felt in any way that was that case, I offer that sincere apology because I care deeply about everyone who's part of this unified district. And the last one is atone. So you've acknowledged it, you've apologized for the experience, and the atone is what the actions are going to take to mitigate that harm, eradicate that harm, so that we don't continue to do harm. And so I think the things that we're going to talk about later on, how are we going to atone for the experiences that we had here in the last year? We need to acknowledge that it was there. We need to apologize for it. And we need to atone. And the actions we take going forward, that's how we're going to address the harm that happened through this whole process. So if there's no additional comments from the board, I would like to have a motion for approval.
I'll motion to approve the tentative agreements reached between SBTA and Santa Barbara Unified and corresponding salary schedules for 24-25.
I second the motion.
Motion and second. All in favor, please raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Dr. Becchio, are you next too on the 8?
I will do.
Oh, you got this one? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Superintendent?
Thank you so much for your remarks, board members, and also to our SBTA partners. This next item is to approve the same agreement of a salary increase for our group that is considered a non-represented employee group that is comprised of confidential, classified management, and certificated management. As you know, board members, I am the chief negotiator for this non-represented group, and we have historically had what we call a Me Too agreement. These confidential employees, management employees that are both again certificated and classified, are very valued in parts of our system. We are a large organization that requires management and support staff to take care of all of the business that takes place in our school district that ensures children have everything they need, the teachers have all their tools, that we're able to feed kids, that we're able to transport kids, make purchase orders, keep up with our facilities, maintenance, and so on. There's a lot of compliance issues to the state and federal government that are handled in the district office that no one ever really hears about, but that is handled by many of our management. And of course, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the school leaders that run our school system, that run our individual schools. They're also part of this non-represented employee group. So some of the categories of people that are in this group are principals, assistant principals, deans, managers, fiscal and facilities directors, just to name a few. And so I'd like to ask that the board approve the Me Too salary increase for this group.
Thank you. And request to speak.
Yes, we have one request to speak. Moni DeWitt. You'll have 3 minutes. Welcome.
Am I good? Yeah. Okay, yes. So I guess I have needed some clarifying questions, and perhaps when something worth 1.5 million comes up, it would be helpful to some of us who aren't as familiar to know specifically who it includes, because from my perspective, and I kind of appreciate what you were saying, President Sims Moten, about like it being an us. But sometimes to me it feels like we're more top down. And so when I first read this, I took it to mean that that might cover people in our leadership arena that probably make 6 times what a teacher makes. And so I'm also aware that we have to tighten our belts and things. So, you know, I wasn't very happy to see it, because on the bottom end of our scale, there's a lot of disparity. Like I know paraeducators, special ed teachers, they put in so much hours, it's very overwhelming work. I might even say it's harder than some of the work at the top, because it's just overwhelming on multiple levels. And so I also just want to add, I don't think special ed gets a lot of voice just historically in this district. In fact, many years ago, when a FICMAT was done on it, 2009, they said the board should have an omnibudsman on the board for special ed. I personally have been thinking that it should be an unduplicated student person, perhaps bilingual, on the board, kind of like our student board member, so that people could go to them and actually talk to them, and then that person could do some sifting and bring the matters to the board. Because I try to bring up ideas even in LCAP, and I have to frankly say I don't think, I did think Mr. Vance was very open, but I didn't feel that from all our leadership who attended. In fact, many times, even though you can tell I'm not that shy, and sometimes I did interrupt one leader when she was sort of on a pause explaining something, because, you know, just a bad habit. I felt really snapped at and, you know, wished I could just run out of the room, but, you know, kept it together and said my point later. But it was, for me, extremely uncomfortable. But I need to know where that 27 million it started out with is going. And it was supposed to be a whole community get to talk, but from day one, they had a template, and we had to talk about that the whole entire time. And there are better models. There are models out there, which include special ed, that, and success has been made for 95% proficiency in groups. And this is happening. The Reading Coalition, we now have the Santa Barbara Reading Coalition. Go to their website. That's part of a group that helps community with accountability. And they actually do things like Board Member Banning was talking about, like going to the site. So anyway, just some thoughts, but things could be better, and they could be warmer and fuzzier.
Thank you. That concludes public comment for that item.
Okay. Board members, any comments and questions regarding this item? Ms. Beal?
Was there a request for clarification that we need to address?
From the last speaker?
Yes.
What was your clarification you were needing on that? If you could come to the podium, that'd be great. Thank you.
I'd love to know from the top down who it applies to. So look at our little organizational chart. I guess the superintendent would be on top, then the CFO, the COO, just like who would be getting an extra 10% specifically. That would be of interest. Thank you.
I think you shared that. Didn't you explain that? You just explain what the was. Did you list any of those employees in your opening comments?
So in
As to who's what this is
the non-represented
yes.
is the groups that I mentioned.
Yes, can you?
The principals, assistant principals, deans, directors, managers of both certificated, in both certificated and classified and confidential employees.
Okay.
The thing that was on the memo in the handout was the agenda just had like a list of the positions, and so it didn't say, like, I'm fine with the principals, but I just want to know the positions at the top. Will they be also getting this 10% raise that the teachers are getting? That was my clarifying question. Thanks.
Yeah, I don't know, just in terms of, thank you for your questions and comments. I just want to make sure that we're not speaking out of turn with regards to the management, other than the ones that you just listed. And because some are under contract, some are different Me Too things. We can come back and make sure we have further clarification if we need to. I think we're okay for right now, but I don't want to get us into any legal trouble by stating something that is not correct.
There are employee contracts and employee agreements that the board has voted on previously that have provisions in them.
Yes, okay, great. Okay, so hearing no additional comments or questions or clarification, thank you for that, Superintendent. May I have a motion for approval?
I move for the approval of salary increase for non-represented employees for confidential, classified management, and certificated management.
I second.
Been motion and second. All in favor, please raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
Thank you for the presentation. Motion passes. Now we will move to item F9. Do we have a request to speak before the board discusses, please?
Yes, we have two public commenters, or three rather. We have, give me 1 second, Kelly Savio up first. Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you. Hi, I'm Kelly Savio, and I'm an English teacher at DP. And I've spoken to you and written to you many times before today, including expressions of thanks for your efforts during COVID-19, informing you of work we've been doing at DP to improve universal access in our English classes, and most recently about the importance of paying teachers a livable wage. But I've also talked to you before about the need for better communication with the people working with our students in our schools on a daily basis. Without talking to them, how can you honestly say that you have an accurate picture of how things are going in our district? Your actions during contract negotiations did make teachers feel devalued, and I appreciate that there is discussion about that today, and willfully ignored. But by continuing to do performance reviews of administrators and making decisions on their employment without our feedback is yet another way that you continue to foster an ever-widening divide between the staff in this district, the staff of this district and yourselves. It seems our school board is sitting in an ivory tower writing its own narrative about how things are going in the district, supported by evidence that has been cherry-picked. So please reinstate the process of gathering feedback from some extremely important stakeholders in this district. The staff. We pride ourselves in being a data-driven district, but this board has been working with incomplete data when it comes to performance reviews for district administrators. Do not vote to extend Dr. Maldonado's contract or any administrator's contract until you can do so with robust evidence, including stakeholder feedback, to support such a decision. Your failure to communicate with a broad and diverse group of staff members about the state of the district and performance of cabinet administrators does a great disservice to this community, our district, and our students. So please stop operating in an information vacuum. I think that this has come up with, we heard this in comments previously from Osby Galindo. It comes back to this idea of we, which I certainly appreciate and think that we do have to move towards that. But when we talk about respect, I mean, this is it, right? And trying to move forward thoughtfully. We really do have to have better communication. We just do. And so please find a way to talk to your stakeholders directly. We're here. We're ready to talk to you. So I just want to make sure that we're hearing that this is not just about salary. This has never just been about salary. That's certainly an important component, but it is about coming back to the we. So please help us do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Katie Garibay, followed by Moni DeWitt. Welcome.
All right, hi again. My name is Katie Garibay. I'm a teacher at San Marcos High School, and I've been working with the district for 13 years. I'm also an SB Unified parent. And I'm here on behalf of many teachers who couldn't be here during summer break to speak out in opposition to extending the superintendent's contract. I find it concerning that the district has not solicited input from the community about this major decision. Last year, teachers shared poignant responses in a survey expressing concern about Superintendent Maldonado's leadership, and you've heard these concerns voiced at multiple board meetings. Since she was hired, the vast majority of district office staff have quit. Numerous principals and administrators have and continue to quit. When these passionate, long-term district employees left, they gave exit interviews. But the information shared in these interviews has never been made public, and I think we deserve to have this information. This is the second time that the board has added this contract renewal as a last-minute agenda item in a summertime board meeting. This suggests that you're hoping it will fly under the public's radar yet again. I know you've received many emails from the public in opposition to this contract renewal, and I'm confident that if this agenda item was during the school year and if teachers had received more than 24-hour notice, this boardroom would be overflowing. Our teachers, students, and community members have been telling you loud and clear that we do not support this contract renewal and that our district needs new leadership. Please listen. Thank you.
Thank you. Moni DeWitt. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the chance to get to comment. So my thought really is that perhaps we don't need to extend it right away because there's already time, and then we can just see, you know, if it actually is a more weak direction from our leader. And areas of weakness that I would say is I do think special ed students and our unduplicated students are somewhat invisible. And when I did speak at LCAP about La Cuesta, the comment back was that they were on a journey and that we had 6,000 other high school students, and that well, what I noticed, among other things, was there's just not a lot of belief, and that once kids fail, we give up on them. And some of them are curriculum casualties, some are just life, but we need to be able to respond to that. And I would just say, as far as leadership, I think if we look closely at the bottom, because they actually have the highest absentee rate, special ed kids, 38%. So we could fix our finances too, because it's also the most expensive. And, you know, if we look at that area, I think it will actually help everybody, and we could actually pay the teachers more, although I think it's great and the most in history. I actually at one point said, in a way, it was so sad it's the most, because to me, on the outside, just saying, I was only aware of that the last 2 years we had to sign a waiver for under 55%. So that was what I knew. And, you know, anyway, I'm just saying there is a lot of issues around special ed and a lot of these perspectives, but I would be happy to meet and have somebody who actually was willing to listen and consider these changes, because that's also a thing I feel that I'm just, you know, somewhat invisible too. But anyway, so yeah, I think let's just put it on hold, and we can see what she demonstrates and how much warm and fuzzy special ed gets, and effective, because they deserve it too.
Thank you. That concludes public comment.
Okay, thank you. So, board members, as we discuss the action agenda, I want to talk about again, and I've been here since 2016, so I want to give a timeline with regards to that. I know how difficult it must be to be the leader and have everything fall at your feet, and I understand that. So that's you know, that's what leaders do. I must say, I do think you hear me talking about opportunity. We are talking about a restart, a reset, and hearing what has been said. I was here when the last, I believe, input session that kind of happened, that was a part of that for the superintendent input, and I remember how that came about and how it's supposed to be input and for the board to consider, the leader to guide, to perhaps talk about goals that need to be set, because that's where the goals, the superintendent and the board are working together to set the goals based on what has been heard, what has been here, what needs to move forward. But we must be fair. 2020, when we hired this superintendent, and 2020 turned our world around, and there were goals, there were expectations that the board decided that, yes, this is the leader for this time to do that. And it was not without much consideration. So while coming in, these were the goals that were set by the board. They got completely destroyed in 2020, as we know. Everything that we thought was going to happen did not happen. We've come out way differently than we would have been if we're just now, extending a contract when everything was the same and we had input. But I want to also be fair about when that input came out, that was publicly put out there. So a little skeptical about how we do an input process. We got to be fair about what we're doing. We're not going to use it as being weaponized. And I'm not trying to say these points to create any defensiveness. I just want to put it out there as we make this decision, because we got to be fair of what we're doing in the situations and the environment in which we were all trying to get through in 2020, and we're still feeling remnants of it, 23. Everything the country is, not as an excuse, but as a way forward, as an opportunity. The board, along with the superintendent, what goals do we want to see concretely? We talked about communication. You're right on. We need to communicate better, more transparently, more often, more clearly. And as I started to say, as we start to do our review of the process and the leadership we're expecting going forward, we need to give the opportunity to do so. So we've concluded a very difficult time. We have settled, and we know we still have to go with regards to our resolutions going forward. It is a reset time. We've got to give this leadership an opportunity to reset, state those goals, implement a robust 360, respectful process that's going to say, I want to have this input because I want this leader to succeed. What does that look like? So this is not going to be a one and done. This renewal of this contract, should we move forward with this, is the starting of the resetting to include the things that you just talked about. Communication, talking to your on the ground, boots on the ground, being more, again, if we're not hearing that in the way that our actions are, then we need to think differently how we need to be able to do that. But I think we need to give the leadership a chance to reset. Give the leadership to be able to say, this is what I heard, this is how I want to go forward. So I just want to set that conversation, and not as a defensive mode here. I don't want to get it to a back and forth, but I just want us to be mindful of things that we're all asking is that how we're going to go forward, how are we going to reset. We have to give, if we're going to reset, then we need to give everybody the opportunity to reset and how we're going to go forward. It doesn't mean that we're not going to come throughout the year. There's processes that this board is starting to look at to put in place so that we have continual input, being aware, particularly around our fiscal management. We've already started to look at those things, how we look at our governance calendar so it can include conversations that need to happen. So I'm asking, as we think about this, as you think about the decision we're making here, that if we're asking for a reset, to be respectful, to be better, then let's let everybody reset, because we all have come through. To be able to do that and have those honest conversations, give the leadership the opportunity to say, I heard what you were saying. Here's what I'm proposing to do. So with that, I would offer board members additional comments for discussion. Ms. Beal?
I want to add to those comments. I know that I do communicate with the public in a way that's a little bit different. And I have been very clear that when I asked to be appointed to this board, that I had some goals. And one of those goals was not to burn this house down. We have had a lot of initiatives to improve curriculum literacy, which is one of my interests, to try to improve literacy and math scores, to build our CTA pathways, and to have a system in place to strengthen those areas. I agree that there are communication and feedback issues that we do need to change. I would love to participate in those. In my 6 months that I've been on the board, it has been a very difficult atmosphere, and I'm very much looking forward to being able to engage in that. In any relationship, and make no mistake, this is a relationship that we have, the community, the students, the district, the board. You have the choice of learning and moving forward. Sometimes that does not work out, but it can. And my attitude, both in my job and my life and in this position, is to always make that attempt. So we did hear that we need to create and build relationships with the staff and the community. We do need to set goals, but we also have to have the opportunity to set those goals and to fulfill them. I don't feel that we had that opportunity personally in the last 6 months or more. So I would like to have that opportunity. And so moving forward for me means saying we are going to work on these things, but we're not going to all of a sudden change everything. It is really important that we focus and we build. And I am a person who has very high expectations. So make no mistake, I will be keeping track of this, and that is my commitment to the community, which includes the students, the teachers, and our staff here. We need to set goals and we need to follow them, and we need to try to rebuild this relationship. And I feel that we need to move forward on that, and that.
Additional comments, board members? Mr. Banning?
I don't think there's a question that any person in this room, sitting in the audience, sitting on the dais, sitting at the cabinet, in any place, doesn't have room to do better. As an organization, we have room to do better. I said before in my comments about the settlement that continuity is important. I appreciate the comments from my colleague, Dr. Beal, from our board president. We can do better. And tonight, in our next item, we're talking about specific processes that will help us do better, us being the board. That's the next part coming up. Well, that's it. We're all in the same place. We're human beings. But while I think and say that all of us in this room can be better and do better, it's very seldom that you have the kind of continuity of intent and desire as what sits in this room right now. The desire to be better for the children of this community. We're going to do it. Thank you.
Any additional comments? Hearing none. So thank you, Mr. Banning, Dr. Beal, for your comments, and comments also from the public. We are going to do this, and we can show you better than we can tell you, because I know words may seem hollow right now, but trust us. I really appreciate what Mr. Banning was saying. The intent and desire is to do better. It absolutely is. And the first step was when we first opened up this board meeting today, acknowledging the stress of the salary and negotiation, acknowledging those things. And I really want to go back to acknowledging the things that we've gone through. I want to, again, the apology, again, if from this board actions felt like it didn't feel supported or heard, and the atonement comes in the actions, allow us to be able to do those actions to move forward. Trust. This is the first step. We got to trust here. This is our first step here. I think, certainly know that our superintendent is hearing and listening and taking this into consideration of what we got to do as we set our goals together as a governing body. And we got to have each other's back. We got to have, because we have enough things going against us sometimes as a public school going against us, funding, all sorts of things. So we've got to have each other. And this does not change unless we do it from the inside out. So I call this a call of action to work from the inside out, starting with this board and this governing body. How do we be transparent about the goals that we set as a governing body is an action of atonement. All we can do is show you better than we can tell you. Mr. Banning.
I just want to add one other thing. I can't tell you how many times my colleagues and I sat here, and at the end of long public session, public comments from teachers, we continued to stay and work and do things that we felt that we weren't being seen because people rightfully, they had to go home. I got that. There were opportunities, however, when the room was empty after this public comment. Some really good work went on in public. Go back and look at some of the recordings, if you will. And I invite you to not leave when this event is over and to stay for the discussion that the board's going to have right now about self-evaluation. And that goes for those of you that are listening online. Don't go away when this is done if you're still there. If you're listening to this after it's recorded, keep listening and watch what this first step is going to be. Thanks.
Thank you. With that, I want to call us all in to doing better, being better, and us doing it together. With that, may I have a motion for approval?
I'm going to move to approve the third amendment to the superintendent's employment agreement.
May I have a second?
I second.
Been motion and second. All in favor, please raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Yes, please.
It's really strange to be sitting up here and hearing yourself be talked about as if I'm a spectator. So I didn't want to miss an opportunity to say something. I want to thank my colleagues who have expressed their concerns about my leadership, who have expressed their concerns about my staying for another till 2027, hopefully, if I'm long enough to live till 2027. And I want to thank the board really humbly for this extension. I am really, really proud of the work that this district has done over these last 4 years, as imperfect as it is, and having been a teacher myself for close to 8 years prior to, as you mentioned, your own career, Mr. Banning, being tapped. I'm what someone would call a reluctant leader. I didn't start off my career thinking that I would become a superintendent. In fact, becoming a principal would have been the highest level of management I would have ever aspired to. I shouldn't even be a teacher by anybody's measures. As an immigrant child who came to this country not speaking English, whose mother had a second-grade education and father only had a first-grade education. So the fact that I sit before you today leading a district and a system that needs to do better at educating children like me is really important to me, and I take that very seriously. And I don't think that any of my intentions have translated well or have been received in a way that some have expressed here today. And clearly, as a learner myself, because I do believe that we are a teaching and learning organization, and as your superintendent, one of the best things that I can do is model learning and model my own learning, model my own growth. There's been a lot of things that have been said about me that have been very hurtful. I've been made to maybe even feel ashamed that there was a coach assigned to me after my first couple of years. And I actually was proud to take on coaching. I don't think that I will ever stop learning. And I hope that I never become a person that stops learning. And I hope that we as an organization, as a school district, teach the love of learning to every single child and teach it and reignite it in our teachers. I know you're tired. I know we put a lot on your plates that first year that I arrived. You had to pivot into an online environment with absolutely no guidelines, no knowledge. I visited classrooms online. I saw kids, cameras, pointed to the roof of their bedrooms or pointed to the floor. I had a chance to see how difficult it was. And why am I proud? It was mentioned earlier today that our teachers came together and wanted to do universal access. It was a teacher-led movement. I don't take credit for that, but I was proud to support it. Because when I came to Santa Barbara Unified, I came with the hope and desire to enact what the board asked me to do at that time, which was to provide equity for all the students in this district, for all the children that we serve that are like me. I am also very proud of our cabinet leaders who have joined me. I do understand and appreciate how much it meant to some of you who had previous cabinet leaders who I deeply respect that are no longer with us, and how that must feel. I have been othered because I'm from Los Angeles, but I'm from many places. And I have made it a choice to be here with all of you. I've left my parents, I left my children, my network, my friends, to be here because I believe in the work of this school district. I recommit once again to this board, to the teachers, to the cabinet, to the staff, and to all leaders to continue to do better on behalf of our students so that they can thrive like I have been given an opportunity to through public education. I believe strongly in the power of public education. I believe it changes lives. It has done it for me, and it's done it for every generation after me in my family. So we do have a lot of work to do over the next year to improve our student outcomes and our systems of support. And I know we can do it. I have seen what these teachers can do. I invite you, and I will continue to invite you to come and meet with me. I was sad that after we did negotiate it over so many hours, we didn't get a chance to even shake hands and see each other face to face. That was not a proud moment for me, and that was something that I think is important for us to do. I will make myself available for us to continue to talk, and I will continue to be your proud superintendent, whether you agree with me or not, whether you like me or not, but I'm hoping to win your support, and I will continue to champion all the work that we are doing in this district. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Superintendent. As we continue to work the way forward, tonight is that restart button. So, board members, I know we're just coming into our discussion. You want to take like a 10-minute break between the two, or do you want to keep going? Which your pleasure. You need a 10-minute break? Okay. 10 minutes, and we'll be back to discuss our last item. Discuss our final item. It's really just Mr. Bannon will take the lead on this, but just so that we can start to look at our board self-evaluation, and we're going to try to get out here before dark. I'm just going to put that out there. It's all right. Just letting y'all know. Okay, Mr. Banning.
All right. Well, Board Bylaw 9400 defines board self-evaluation, and you have a copy of it in front of you. I'm not going to read it to you or tell you about it, other than it gives us some direction about how we may go forward with self-evaluation. I think that what I'm going to recommend that we do is take a careful look at our governance handbook, which you have available on the website. I want you to note that on the website there is a board governance handbook that has protocols within it. There's also another portion that says board and superintendent protocols. And there, I believe that there is not complete alignment between those and the ones in the governance handbook. But the governance handbook is the most recent piece of work done by the board in terms of their protocols. And so the things I'm going to talk about tonight are related to the protocols and procedures and principles in the governance handbook, not the one that says board and superintendent protocols. They're very similar, but it just... What I'm going to propose is that each of the members take a look at that entire governance handbook. I think it's important to reread it all. There's a mission statement, there's comment about effective governance, about the unity of purpose and a commitment to equity. There's also a section about governance roles and responsibilities and guidelines for working together. And it's important that you review all of those before we go forward with gathering input. The last section of the document is principles and protocols to facilitate governance leadership, and that's the area that I'm going to want us to focus on. We will have some narrative questions about roles and responsibilities. There is a survey. It will be an online survey that we'll ask each board member to do. The principles and protocols fall into different categories. There's requesting information from the superintendent, the meetings as strategic leadership, the role of the board president, board deliberations, motions, actions. All of these things, are 13 of them, including the last one about the student board member, gives us a chance to look at specific protocols or our rules about how we're supposed to be operating and assessing whether we're doing them well or not. The survey that I'm proposing for us will have each principle or each protocol that's listed in this document. Oh, good. Okay. So can you open section? Is that, it's section. Oh, wait. Oh, yeah, there it is. It's the third one of those, principles and protocols. And so there's all these options there. Each one of those it starts with a principle, with an LE, principle, and then it has bulleted protocols. I'm going to ask you to be thinking about about the principle and about each of the bulleted protocols, and then responding in a survey to how well you think we're doing this. The survey will have options like, we do this very well, we're pretty good at it, this may be an area of inconsistency or weakness, or there may be serious concerns about it. And then there will be a not applicable, or an NA. I'm not asking you to do that because you don't want to answer, but some of the things just they may not be applicable because we haven't dealt with them. We haven't had to deal with them as this board. Another example is a protocol about board members who are parents visiting schools and how that goes. And if I'm not a parent, it's not applicable for me. So I'm going to ask that as you respond to things that are really not applicable, that you don't put a response down. As you're going through this, part of the self-evaluation is whether these are the right protocols. Because I'm going to want you to be thinking if there's anything missing, or if there are things in it that are really, that need to be rethought, revised, removed. You'll have an opportunity at the end of the survey to answer about changes, modifications in the existing protocols that you think would be of necessity. What is the desired outcome from all of this? We'll put together a summary of our responses so that we can see how many board members are reporting as self-evaluation that we're doing very well or pretty well or not so good or really bad. We'll be able to rank each of these areas and protocols in terms of what we think are the things we're strongest at and what are the things that we're weakest at. And then we will have an opportunity in a meeting, a workshop meeting, to define specific governance team goals that we need to do better based on how our self-evaluation is. That's the broad overview of what I'm proposing that we do. I think we have a date already scheduled for a meeting that we will use to review the results of this. The results will be done in aggregate without board members' names on them. And that leads me to a question that I'd like to get clarity from the board members. One method of doing this, we want to make sure that everybody has participated. And without putting your name down, we don't know whether you've participated. That means that it is possible to connect answers to particular board members in the raw data, and that's something that I would see. If you prefer, we can use a method that makes it anonymous, where you log in with a number, and those numbers are randomly assigned. And I'm prepared with a simple solution that does it if you prefer to have your responses be anonymous, or if it's all right to just move forward with putting your name down on it. That's the broad overview of what I want to do. I'm ready to send out to you, as soon as we agree on this, a link to the survey that you will take, and we'll establish some timelines and review some of what I've just said in a instructional email, and put together the results before our meeting on September 14th.
Saturday, September 14th.
Yeah. So that's a broad overview of where we start. In essence, this survey is an opportunity for us to think about what we're doing as a governing board, how we're doing individually, how we're doing together, and then responding. What are the things we're proudest of? What are the things we're most concerned about? Are there protocols that we need to look at? And then finally, when we have our discussion, it's been suggested that we could go back to the workshop that we had where we discussed the accountability pathways, and use that in part of the analysis of what we do next and why we find where we are with the strengths and the areas in need of attention. So that's my overview. I'm glad to take any questions or have further dialogue about this.
I'm assuming there's no request to speak on this item. Okay. So board members, comments, questions? First of all, thank you, Mr. Banning, for putting this together and bringing us forth for discussion. Ms. Banning? Miss Banning. Miss Bill? You know, you start with a B. Bill, Miss Bill.
This is my inexperience. How does, I know that we have the meeting in September, which is anybody can attend, correct? And so we will be discussing our handbook and what we expectations of ourselves, as well as the protocols we have in place, correct?
Yes.
What if there is or there needs to be feedback from the stakeholders in the district? How does that get incorporated at the meeting or before then?
Well, this is a self-evaluation. This is not intended for outside feedback. That's something we could look at in terms of goals or responses to determine that. But a self-evaluation is limited to our internal discussion among ourselves about the protocols that we use.
Yeah.
There certainly would be opportunity at the review to discuss it.
What the bylaw states, that you conduct a self-evaluation.
Yeah.
Yeah, just to.
So I would just add to that. I think it was 2 years ago. I'm just trying to think of location that when we actually drafted, two of our board members at the time took the lead on drafting the current governance handbook that we have, and that was in an open meeting that we started to put the protocols together and update them, and so thus the handbook. And so now, just through all the things that we've done, we kind of figured, do we use that as a resource as we should, as much as we should, in terms of that? And so, so again, as part of our process going forth, as we're talking about how we're going to improve communication and what our roles are, being clarity, I think this is this opportunity to do that. To your point about how we would include external input, we have to figure out what that process is going to be looking forward again, so that people are part of that. That may be another part, maybe a session in a board meeting that we talk about, provide input once we get that back. So again, we're developing this process as we're speaking. Mr. Escobedo.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm thinking as we look forward to our review process, having a 360 review for the superintendent, maybe the board is also a part of that 360 review. And so that we're tapping into stakeholder input as well. Just a thought as we move forward. We still do our self-evaluation. We don't change this part. But if we're looking for stakeholder feedback, that could be one avenue.
Mm-hmm.
And you do it in one process.
And I want to be clear that any discussion involving the board's self-evaluation is an open session discussion, much as we're doing here. This isn't something that we do behind closed doors. nor are the results.
Right.
It will be an open session meeting, and anyone is welcome to attend and hear the dialogue and understand what we're determining about our own strengths and areas of attention.
Oh, okay, all right. So additional comments or questions for Mr. Banning as he's ready to give us a, Mr. Escobedo, oh, Ms. Munoz?
I know you mentioned for the survey, I'm fine with putting my name on it.
Oh,
But
yeah.
whatever, others
I'm fine.
think would be.
I am as well.
Same.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
I concur, I am as well, comfortable with that.
What is the timeline for the survey?
I don't have one yet, other than to say that I would need probably a week before the September 14th meeting. I hesitate to put out too long a timeline to do it, so I think when is our next meeting?
The next meeting for the board is August 6th.
So if it's done by that time, there's time to do the aggregation and data analysis.
August 13th.
If we could.
August 13th. Yeah, the 6th, I was like, what? Wait a minute.
Next meeting is August 13th.
Okay, so I think is it appropriate to ask that it be finished by August 1st?
That's almost 3
that
weeks,
would-
right? Well, no, it's 2 weeks. I
2
was trying to
weeks?
give us an extra week. So is 2 weeks good a time to board members at work? It's not a long survey,
So
right?
there are about 42 things that you respond to. 42 items within those 13 together, but most of them are just, it's not comments, it's not writing, it's just clicking a Likert scale.
Okay.
We're really good at this. On to the next one. We're okay at this. At the end, there are 3 or 4 narrative questions really about what you're proudest of, what you're most worried about, and whether there are protocols and other, and what you might suggest as potential governance SMART goals that could come out of this for us.
Okay, any additional comments or questions? So thank you, Mr. Banning, again, taking the leadership on this. So board members, we are hoping to have it back by August 1st. Was that correct? Okay. So we'll have that to give that time to, then will it be an open session on August 13th? Is that the goal or no?
Well, it's a workshop.
So we're
It'll be-
gonna wait the workshop to
Yeah,
the 14th. Yeah,
yeah.
got it. Thank you. And then our next thing is the 14th. Okay, so want to make sure that's clear, and that's on our governance calendar, right? September 14th.
And
Okay.
then, in terms of getting the email with a link out to you, probably by, it's Tuesday, by the end of this week, perhaps by Thursday, I can get it to you, maybe even tomorrow afternoon.
Okay, great. I really appreciate this, and I was just thinking about it in general when we started to look at this, though, because I think this would help us in terms of board roles and responsibilities, because I think about sometimes what questions are asked when we hear members from the public, or even when we made presentations come up. It's like, well, is that a policy issue that we might need to further talk about? Did this policy fail this situation? What to ask those questions, or do we need a policy, or do we need our ARs to be, checked against that? So to ask those questions, it keeps us focused on the business at hand of what our roles are, right? I'm looking forward to this again as an opportunity to take a really in-depth look, and that is us doing our work from the inside out.
And can I just make a technical comment? Sometimes when you're doing these online surveys, they're long, and there'll be a button you push at the end of each thing to go on to the next section, all of those sections within all 13. And the question is always, what if I get disrupted? What if I stop? What if I can't do this all at once? Ideally, you're going to set aside an hour or so and get it done all at once. But in these situations, if you log in and start something and then come back to it on the same computer, in the same browser, you should be able to have your responses pick up where they were. Okay? So if power went off, generally up through the last time you pushed submit, you will be able to get back to it, but it might not work if you do it on a different computer because that has a different IP address and it might think it's a different response.
Okay. I think that concludes our business for the day. Hallelujah. What?
Future events?
Yeah, the business. So now I'm going to see the business. And so now I'm going to go to the coming events. Do you want to highlight some? Okay.
So I'd like to discuss with the board, the meeting on August 27th has become a bit problematic for some on the board. And we probably won't have a quorum on August 27th. So can you look at your calendars? Can we decide to move that meeting to a different date? Now that I've heard from 3 board members that won't be able to make that meeting.
Are you
And
looking
we
for a
could
date
do
in
it-
August, in the same month, or just?
Well,
having
here's what
one
I
and
was
calling
looking
it?
at in the calendar. We could do back-to-back, the 13th and again the 20th. In September, we have 2 meetings in September, 2 in October, 1 in November, and 1 in December. The second one in December is the reorganization meeting, so that's just, set aside. It's not a business meeting per se. So really, 1 in November, 1 in December. I don't know if you want me to add a meeting to maybe November that ends up being a little bit of a back-to-back. Because we already have 3 going in September, the 10th, the 14th, and the 24th.
So what is the business that needs to get done on the 27th that we need? You may not know. Is there
So I
something?
was asked that question, but,
Okay.
for example, we don't know if CSEA is going to settle, and we might need to have approval meeting.
Yeah.
It's hard to say,
Yeah.
but as I'm building the governance calendar, I would want us to put in a second meeting in August. Sandra, do you agree? Sandra's my most experienced person here. Yeah, so it makes, you can't hear Sandra, but she's saying it makes more sense to do it in August rather than push it out the other months. So that would only give us, one idea could be that we move the 13th meeting to the 6th and the 27th to the 20th, so that we just basically move both meetings up 1 week prior. Or we do the 6th and the 13th and the 20th. That would be 2 Tuesdays back to back. But I know Cabinet, I know you're listening, so that just means whatever we're preparing needs to be.
Is the conflict one that is for the entire week? Would there be an opportunity at looking at a different day of the week in August?
I will look to my colleagues.
No?
The entire week is gone for you.
Okay.
The entire week for you. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so that week is gone.
I
Good
gotta
question.
find something to do that week.
So one option is the 6th and the 20th. Another option is the 13th and the 20th.
Either of those will work for me.
Okay.
Same for me, maybe a slight preference for the 6th to just have a little space between meetings.
6 and 20, okay.
I can't make the 20th.
Okay, the 20th is out for you, okay?
So otherwise, it's the 6th and 13th.
But that's only one person, so we could still hold a meeting if the 4 of, so Mr. Banning and Ms.
Either
Simpson.
of those would work for me.
Either one, I can make them work. Either one. If the 6th it would be better, but I can make them both work.
So if only one of you is gone the 20th, then I'm going to propose that we do the 6th and the 20th. That gives us some space in between to get all our materials ready. And we will just make that. Sandra, do we need to do anything specific to change the meeting other than to change it on our website, and then we just announce our meetings on the regular queue? Okay.
So August 6th and 20th at this
So
point.
we will send new meeting invites. We'll change the website. The meetings will now be August 6th and August 20th.
Okay. So that was was there any additional comment events you wanted to highlight? You're good? And then future agenda items, board members, if you want to, is there something on there?
Dr. Sheffield, we are holding the summer school graduation this week.
Is that the 18th?
That would be Thursday at 6 p.m. in this room. And do we have a number? We have 2 summer school graduates on Thursday. We invite the board to join us. We want to recognize those resilient students that don't give up. That is a true sign of success. So you're invited to join us here at 6 p.m.
6 p.m. on this Thursday?
This Thursday,
week,
July 18th.
That's it. And then board items, board members, look at your future agenda items just to see where we're looking at that, and we'll try to be more mindful of making sure they're moving up the item to address. With no additional comments, questions, desires, it is 8:25 before dark. We are concluding our meeting.